Welcome to episode 1448 of the Sleeper on the Bus. I'm Justin Mason, joined by Jason Collette. How you doing, my friend?
Down the home stretch we come, buddy.
Yep.
We are the last, this is literally the last day of August. And here we are, some of you guys in head-to-head leagues. I believe playoffs start tomorrow. For those of you guys who play that format, I do not. But it's, we only have 4 weeks of the regular season left because the season ends on Sunday, the 28th. And here we are. What can we still do to help you win your leagues?
Yeah, it is that time of year where, head-to-head playoff leagues are starting their playoffs, or some of them have already started. There are some leagues that are actually done right now. I know there was a big push years ago for head-to-head leagues to be like, hey, do your playoffs in August and just be done by September, just because September can be so wonky.
Yeah.
So, it's head-to-head playoff time. It is crunch time in roto leagues. Now is the time where you make your money because so many people will switch their attention to football if they haven't already. So you've got to kind of knuckle down and be ready to go here.
Well, and tonight's in some leagues is the last time you can make a move for FAAB or definitely trades. In a couple of my leagues, tonight's the trade deadline. And so it's like, okay, what expiring contracts do I have that I can move? Who's willing to give up something? What can I do to protect margins in certain categories? So tonight, pretty big night, depending on your league rules and whatever your format is.
That is true. And we're going to cover a bunch of FAAB today. It's not a massive FAAB weekend, but there are some really, really big players that might have a big effect on the rest of the season, especially in the closer market. And we're going to get to that here in a little bit. But first, let's start with we're going to start with a little bit of news and notes, which includes that closer market. Randy Rodriguez, he's going to get Tommy John. This was a really, really kind of weird situation where all of a sudden Randy Rodriguez just didn't look right. He was clearly struggling. The Giants started to move towards Ryan Walker as the closer. So Randy Rodriguez done. Ryan Walker back as the closer. He was the closer last year and at the beginning of this season before he struggled. If you are in need of saves, are you just going all in right now on Ryan Walker?
I am, but I don't expect to get him. And I mentioned this off air. I'm in a league where the three of us at the top are separated by point. 114, 113 and a half, 113. That's where it is. And I am in a tight pocket where it's a saves plus half a point holds league. And I have been streaming relievers, middle relievers. I made a trade for Jojo Romero. It's like I've been throwing everything I can at that because it's in a pocket where I have an opportunity to make up some points. And I have a bid in for Ryan Walker. I know the guy, one of the guys in this league, at least one of them listens to this podcast, and he's got a lot of money in FAAB. I don't. He's going to get Ryan Walker, if just not to block me from getting him, which is a good play. This is what you should be doing as fantasy managers. So I'm expecting to lose out, but what I have left is in.
Yeah. I mean, if you need saves, there's probably no better option. We're going to talk about one other option here in a little or later in the show because Milwaukee's closer situation has become muddled with Trevor McGill hitting the IL as well. But I think Walker is clearly the next guy up if you are in need of saves. And there are a couple leagues where saves might make a difference for me for sure. I'll be going big on Ryan Walker this evening as well. Next on the docket, we've got Mackenzie Gore going to the IL. This has just been kind of a bummer of a season for Gore. It seemed like he was taking things to another level. The whip has never been a real asset of his, but you at least got strikeouts, a good ERA, and so a little bit of win potential. The good ERA hasn't really come to fruition, but you got the strikeouts. This is probably ending his season. It's just shoulder strain or shoulder soreness. He's likely going to be done considering the Nationals are not going to be competitive towards the end of the season. Where are you at on Mackenzie Gore for next year? Is this going to be a guy you're going to buy back into?
I don't think so. Personally, just Washington's just been kind of a mess. Not sure exactly where they're going to be with their pitching development. I mean, Gore at times has looked great this year. And I remember I just was listening this morning to you and Paul talking about this on Friday. And I believe Paul's line was somebody shoot me. If I was like, if Mackenzie Gore can turn this around and stop doing this, like I believe he said, I just need to stop saying that and move from there. So it is, I'm not on the right price, maybe, but it's not something I'm planning for.
Yeah, it really is going to depend on what the price is. I mean, I love Mackenzie Gore, but the whip has continued to be an issue. He walks too many guys. He allows too many hits. He gets strikeouts. The ERA can be kind of that high 3s, low 4s, which is fine. But you're not on a team that has a ton of win potential. I do think it's going to be better and continue to get better in Washington as they've got a lot of these young guys that have come up and they have more on the way as well. But personally, that whip is such a killer. And I think whip is one of the most overlooked stats on the pitching side of things. And the fact that this has been his best whip of his career and it's 134 tells me a lot about where I'm at with Mackenzie Gore kind of moving forward. Strikeouts are great, but you can't murder your whip that early in a draft.
No, that's a heavy whip to carry, especially in this day and age. 134 is just tough to carry.
Yeah, absolutely. Last piece of news. There wasn't a ton of news. Payton Smith done for the year. We don't really care though, do we?
No, I mean, deeper leagues, it's just one of these things where he was doing a little bit of stuff and then this happened. So it's like, what can you do? And you kind of move on from here. And at least the way you can drop him is really the inclusion was in case you were trying to hold on to something, there's a roster spot that just got opened up for you.
Okay. What about Connor Norby? We're going to start the FAAB off now. And he is back from the IL. This has been a guy that some people in the industry have been really, really big fan of. I personally haven't. I don't think you have as well. But is this someone you would pick up for the stretch run here?
So I would say, yes, I would. The only reason I was a fan of him is because, people recall when I go through bold predictions is one of the things where I'm looking for volume players on bad teams who cannot get who's going to have an opportunity to do something. And Norby, once he got traded, was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then he got back in the lineup here over the weekend, and he went 3 for 10 with 3 runs and 3 RBIs against the Mets. So it's like, if he's going to go out there and play every day, yes, it's all about playing time, whatever I can do to maximize the rest of my playing time moving forward. And so that is rather intriguing. Just if you need something, let's say you had Payton Smith playing CI in a deeper league, here's an option that you have because there's going to be, Norby would have more plate appearances than Payton Smith would have had he stayed healthy the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've never really been a big fan of Connor Norby. I don't love the kind of underlying contact skills.
Oh, they're bad, but he's going to play.
But you're right. He is going to play. I think the problem is, like, when you have a guy like this as an accumulator, there's just not that much time left to accumulate. So if you go and look at the rest season projections that we've got over on Fangraphs, you see that pretty much every projection system has him for 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, kind of 10 and 10 in terms of runs and RBIs, like a 246 batting average. You need to kind of look at your team and goes, is that going to move the needle, right? If you're in a really deep league, that might. If you're in a league where, hey, all the other guys on the waiver wire aren't really full-time players, yeah, Connor Norby makes some sense because he could get hot and hit 4 home runs or 5 home runs or steal 4 or 5 bases. And like that might move the needle for you. I think in 10s and 12s, obviously that's not going to. You're going to be looking somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, here's there's a couple of points I would make in Norby's defense. One, he has 3 days off in September, schedule-wise, and they have 7 games against the Nationals this week and next week. They have 3 at Washington, pardon me, and then 4 in Miami. So that's another, like, if you're looking for a tiebreaker type of thing, that's pretty sweet. Now, around that, they got 3 games against the Phillies, and they have 3 games against the Tigers, so that could be some tough pitching. But 7 games against the Nationals, and both of those are on the first half of the scoring periods. So you could put Norby in for 3 this week against the Nationals. You can put him in for 4 next week against the Nationals and avoid the tougher part. So if you're looking to mix and match your lineups and try to stack something, got something else to consider.
Okay. Then we have Jared Trio. He is been actually fairly hot. as of late. And it seems like he's going to play regularly kind of rest the way. Where are you at on him?
That's it. He's been hot. He's playing regularly. Yes, interest because we just have this attrition. We've got guys dropping off. I'm looking to actively replace Addison Barger, who's been on the aggregate effective this year, but he is really starting to cool off. And I would love the option to move him to my bench and get somebody else in the lineup. And Triolo is somebody I would consider.
Yeah, if you kind of look at what Triolo has done over the course of the last month, he's hitting 333, 437, 494 with 2 home runs and 4 stolen bases, playing every day pretty much between third and shortstop for the Pirates here over the course of the last few weeks. I picked him up last week in a number of leagues where I needed some stolen bases. It's like, hey, this guy is stealing bases. He's playing every day. And Pittsburgh has no reason not to kind of just let him go out there and roll with it. He's 27. They need to see if, hey, is this going to be a guy who is a part of our future? He's eligible at 4 different positions: first, third, second, and shortstop. Yeah, I like Triolo as a guy who is, he's not necessarily a world beater, but he's hot right now, and the Pirates are giving him an opportunity.
So, and the other thing, the funny thing is, you look at stats. I'm looking at August, and he has the same WRC plus as Junior Caminero and Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
But the component stats are nowhere close. That's the thing. But they only did it's the on base percentage. It's really fueling him. Like he has this 14.4% walk rate right now, and those other guys are single digit walk rates, and that's really what's fueling Triolo. He's getting on base, and it would be nice if he could score more than 17 runs, but that's Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. Though he has been leading off fairly regularly over the course of the last 5 games. He's led off 4 times. The 5th game he came in as a pinch hitter. So
yeah,
he's pretty much led off the last every game he's played of the last week. So that's a good sign as well for Triolo. This is a guy I would be going to the wire for pretty easily. Moving on to Dominic Smith, who had a big game the other night, been a little bit hot. His playing time is somewhat irregular in San Francisco. He ends up kind of starting at first base versus lefties, and then kind of being moved in and out versus righties. Any interest in Dominic Smith?
Yes, and we're going to talk about another Giant in a second, and there's a reason why I would have interest in Dominic Smith, and it's not because he's that great of a hitter. I mean, we've seen moments, the potential and whatnot, but the thing to point out, what really intrigues me for the Giants, this is what their September schedule is. They have 7 games against the Dodgers, and then the rest of their schedule, 6 against the Rockies, 1 against Baltimore. They got a makeup, which may not be played if you consider there's probably no ramifications of that, but they have a makeup game against Baltimore somewhere, 6 against St. Louis and 6 against Arizona. That's a favorable schedule. And so that's what intrigues me about Dom Smith if I'm looking for corner help. And the next guy we're going to talk about, because that's arguably the easiest schedule for anybody else, for any other team in baseball, when you look at the quality of opponent.
And I need to correct myself. He is playing regularly versus righties, not versus lefties. And then he's sitting versus lefties. Though coming up this week, they have the Rockies, who only have 1 lefty on their docket, and then he has a match or a series versus the Cardinals, who have no lefties scheduled for that series versus the Giants. So he should play in I believe 5 of 6 games this week. Which is a really good start. And then, he gets to go up against the Diamondbacks, who only have 1 lefty in the rotation the following week. So I think Dominic Smith is going to play quite a bit. Again, not a guy who is got a ton of power, but what he does do is he gets on base. His batting average is really good. He can accumulate. And if you're looking for runs and RBIs, you're looking for a decent batting average boost right now, I think Dominic Smith makes sense. If you're looking for power, you're going to have to go a different direction. So far this year, Dominic Smith in 189 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 2 stolen bases. So you're not going to get a lot of power. You're not going to get really any speed. But what you can get is a little bit of batting average boost if you're looking for that.
So when did the one game against Baltimore? I don't, like I said, it probably will not be played as there's absolutely no ramifications for it. So it looks like it was rained out. No, that's today. I'm sorry, they have that game today. That's it. So the rest of the schedule wise, they don't travel west. They have a game against the Cardinals, the series against the Cardinals, but they are no longer like east of, they're staying west of St. Louis for the rest of their schedule. And it's an even balance between home and road games. So I'm just looking at it, but they do have a 7-game week against all on the road against the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers the week of the 15th, but they have a 6, a 6, a 7, and a 6 the rest of the way.
Yeah. Let's keep it in San Francisco, and we'll go to Luis Matos, who he is a former top 100 prospect that, he has not really ever blossomed into the guy that I think many people, including myself, thought he would. However, he's been blossoming as of late, kind of since the trade deadline, and then moving Mike Yastrzemski, who we're going to talk about here a little bit later. He has 39 plate appearances, 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases in those 39 plate appearances, with a 405, 436, 784 triple slash. Picking up Luis Matos right now.
So I was looking at him earlier since the middle of last week. So since August 21st, he's had 5 multi-hit games. He had 4 2-hit games in a row. Then he had a single hit. Then he went hitless in 2. And then he was 4 for 5 in the first game of this Baltimore series, 1 for 3 in the second. And so over that stretch, he's just been hot. And this is, ride the heater, and he's been hitting high in the lineup. So 3, 4, 6, 8, 9 runs scored. We have 7 RBIs. We have 2 steals. Yes. And we know he's got at least 3 games against the Rockies this week.
Yeah.
Good schedule. And the Cardinals, who are world beaters.
And Matos is been really, really good against right-handed pitching this year. I think a lot of people think of him like, oh, he's probably just a short side platoon guy because he's a righty. But he's actually been much better against righties than he has against lefties this year. He's had kind of reverse platoon splits. So with this kind of righty-heavy, pitching situation that he's going to be facing over the course of the next week plus, I think Matos is going to play quite a bit. Now, it'll be interesting to see where he does bat in the lineup. He has been batting mostly 7th and 8th, but at some point they're going to have to move him up the lineup and kind of see if he can continue this hot streak, because he has just been absolutely on a tear. I would be picking up Luis Matos, especially if I need speed. He's a good defender. I think he's going to play quite a bit moving forward as the Giants kind of decide whether or not he is a part of this future or not. Still only 23 years old, so he is still really, really young with some improvement. I always liked Luis Matos, and it's good to see that he is starting to put things together here in San Francisco. We have Jordan Lawlar, who I feel like we've talked about every episode over the course of the last month that we've done, because we've just been waiting for him to come up. Well, guess what? He is finally up, and there's no reason to think he is not going to be playing every single day the rest of the season. This is a top 10 prospect in baseball, or at least has been. Right now, Fangraphs has him as the 10th overall prospect in baseball. The hit tool is the thing in question. There's plenty of power and speed, and he's a pretty good defender. Where are you at on Jordan Lawlar?
So you say that there's no reason to think he won't play every day, but guess who didn't play last night? Jordan Lawlar. So that's kind of where... And they bring him up Friday against the lefty. He hits 9th. They have a righty yesterday. He didn't hit. And then so you look at the depth chart. Where is he going to play? So he played 3rd base that night, and then they moved Blaze Alexander to 2nd base that particular night. And then Vargas is played 2nd base last night. So they're making room for. I don't know. I want to believe. I have him in a 12-team NL league, and I need to get. I would like to be able to use Lawlar in September, as I'm trying to get that team. Right now it's 4th, but there's a chance at 2nd, so I'm trying to push that up, and I would love for that to happen. But if Lawlar's going to make it in the lineup, it's going to be at the bottom of the lineup, and sample size of 2 games, he's not guaranteed everyday playing time. So a little concerned, but in a 12-team league, I don't care. But if you're in 12-team NL, I don't care. But if you're in mixed league, I don't know if you can jump all in on this. I know you want to, but I don't know what Arizona's going to do here.
Yeah, I mean, they should be playing him every day. Like, they absolutely should be playing him every day. I think the question is, like, what does he do with that playing time, right? So far, his major league sample this season has been absolutely atrocious. Now, let's be fair. It's only 26 plate appearances, so we're not super worried about that. But the strikeout concerns on a guy like Lawlar are real. This is not a guy who has an elite hit tool as a prospect. His prospect status comes from, hey, he's a good defender with power and speed, but that strikeout rate will be likely north of 30% rest of the way and moving into next year. You kind of almost, from a fantasy perspective, if you are a Lawlar fan, though, aren't you kind of hoping that he kind of just continues to struggle rest of the way, and then you can get him on the cheap for next season? Because I got a feeling he's going to be an everyday player coming into next year.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I like I said, I don't know. In some leagues, I know tonight's it. Like, if there's no September FAAB, I know I've played in some leagues like that. There's some other leagues where you can do it all the way to the end of the season. So I don't know what your things are, what your rule, but depending on the rule, if he sucks this week, fine. Maybe try to get him cheap next week. But if this is it, go for it and see what happens.
This is boomer bust, right? Like, this is
really
one of those guys who could have 6 home runs rest of the way.
I wish September was a little different. It used to be when we had all the craziness, we'd always have like a 1 or 2 guys bust out in September. But now that we don't have all the different pitchers coming up and whatnot, it just isn't the same. Playing time's a little more consistent and whatnot. But we used to have, I think back to when Ben Zobrist broke out in 2009. You could see it in 2008. It started in September of 2008. And there would be other guys that had Jose Bautista the year before he blew up, had a really good September that one time. So we just don't see that type of thing anymore. I don't know. I kind of miss it. I wish we did.
There's kind of that trade-off though, because like, you also had guys who would like only play 2 or 3 games a week, right? Because when rosters expanded to 40, like there was just too many mouths to feed. Especially on the teams that weren't competing. They'd be just rotating guys in and kind of trying to get looks at them. Whereas now, like, who's going to play, right? A lot of the guys we've already talked about in terms of like, the Luis Matos and the Jared Triolo, like, they wouldn't be playing every day back when we expanded rosters of 40. So now that they only expanded to 28, like, you kind of get to see those guys pretty much every day.
So playing around, I went into StatHead Split Finder and said, okay, show me September only. So I just went back to like 1991, but guess who has hit the most home runs in the month of September since 1991?
Are they active?
No, retired.
Most September home runs. I have no idea.
Albert Bell was 17 in 1995.
Okay,
he slugged 929. 929. Guess who scored 38 runs in the month of September of 2000? And unfortunately, rest in peace for this individual.
Rest in peace. Now that one threw me. I have no idea.
Richard Hidalgo with the Mets, 11 home runs, scored 38 runs. So we just don't see this absurdity unless it's Aaron Judge. All right, How about 40 RBIs in the month of September of 2010? And this person only recently retired in the last few years.
2010. I have no idea. I really
Too
don't.
low.
Oh.
Too low. And then this is an active player, stole 16 bases in the month of September.
Okay, this one, is this John Birdie?
No, this is Ohtani. In 24, he stole 16 bases.
That's great.
But the other...
because he was trying to get to 50. He was trying to get to 50-50.
The other actives, and these are the only ones who have stolen double-digit bases in September. Howard Johnson with 11. So I guess that was his 30. That was 1991. I don't know if that was his 30-30 push. But that would have been... I thought he was 30-30 in the 80s. Nope, that was his 30-30. That was his second 30-30 push, or his third. I'm sorry. It was his third 30-30 push. And then we have Ronald Acuna Jr. in 23, Elvis Andrus in 22, and Ricky Weeks in 2007. That's it. So it's like, I just only want to bring this up because, like, as you think about, it's not your father's September anymore. I mean, notice, unless you have two guys trying to pursue a 40-40 or a 50-50 season, you're just not seeing crazy stolen bases anymore. And the home runs, I mean, Aaron Judge was 6th on this list with 15, but he is the only other active player that I find. Tyler O'Neill with the 13 home runs he had in 2021. Marcus Semien, rest in peace, his foot, had 13 in 2021. That's kind of it. We just don't see a lot. We don't see a lot of double-digit stuff in September anymore.
Yeah, it's it's kind of a different ballgame now with rosters not expanding as large as they used to. Let's keep it moving though, and we're gonna move on to Zach Gelof, who is back. If you listen to the podcast for any length of time, you know how much I dislike Zach Gelof as a fantasy option, but we're talking about a guy who has power and speed, and he's playing in probably the best park, or at least one of the best parks in baseball. To kind of unlock those, you're gonna have to deal with a bad, batting average and strikeouts more than likely. But we've seen hot stretches from Gelof in the past. Currently, he is a 52% strikeout rate. Where are you at on Gelof? You taking the risk on the upside with the power and the speed?
24 games left, even split 12-12. They are on the road all this week. Yep. So I am not thrilled with them this week, but the Cardinals and Angels aren't terrible matchups. And then he comes home and he's got Boston and Cincinnati. Then they go on the road for Boston and the Pirates, and they wrap up with the Astros and the Royals. The Astros will have absolutely nothing left to play for at that point. The Royals may. So it's like he should be in there. Gelof should be in there every day. Yeah. The problem was, I guess this would be a good reminder to remind folks that all recovery timelines aren't the same. Gelof was not supposed to miss this much time. And then when he did miss the time and he came back, he was god-awful. They sent him back to the minors, and now they just brought him back with it. So I would take the champ, but I don't know if I want to leave him in my lineup every game. I would like to be able to try to get him cheap this week and then use him next week when he's at home all week, and then try to bench start based off the parks, because there could be some tough matchups there, especially that week of the 16th with the 3 at Fenway, 3 at the Pirates. If they're still letting Skeens pitch and you got Bubba Chandler pitching, it's like, that's not a great week to be using them. So I'd use them for the 2 home weeks and then bench them for the 2 road weeks.
Yeah, I think that's right. And you really need to look at where your batting average is, because this is a guy who can just absolutely go over 20 in a stretch, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I just lost 2 points in batting average. So I think a lot of people think like batting average isn't going to move at this time of year, but it can't, especially when you got kind of these extreme guys that are either running really, really hot or really, really cold. Gelof has played every single game since he got called back up. So he is going to play. He can accumulate. There is power and speed, especially in that park, but he can run really, really hot, really, really cold, and that batting average could be an issue. So just kind of keep that in mind as we move forward. What about Jeremiah Jackson? This is a former prospect of note that has never really turned into much as a player, but he has been playing regularly, and he has been, fairly productive so far. Any interest in Jeremiah Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, that's a 10-game hit streak happening right now. That's the beauty. It's only batting average and then runs for being on base, but he's got a 10-game hit streak right now, and he's had multi-hit games in 4 of those 10 games. But no home runs. Oh, I'm sorry, no, 2 home runs in that. But he's, again, getting back to how we started this whole segment with Connor Norby. Are you playing every day? Yes. Are you on a bad team that you're not going to lose playing time? Yes. He's checking the boxes for this. And as long as you can afford the other, like, I don't expect him to continue. Like, he drove in 4 runs yesterday, had a home run, 2 runs, 4 RBIs. It's like, okay, that was at San Francisco. I don't know what else to say. But you kind of missed that goodness, but he's in there playing every day. And so, yes, there's interest. If you have lost outfielders this week because of injury, then yes, Jackson would be somebody that checks boxes.
Yeah, not only is he playing every day, he's actually been batting second every day
Yes.
in this lineup. And like, yes, this is not a good team, but that offense is still pretty good. So like you could score a lot of runs with Jeremiah Jackson right now. Like I said, not a ton of power, a little bit, and not a lot of speed, or actually no speed. He has 0 stolen bases so far in his 25 games, 91 plate appearances at the major league level. But hey, a little bit of pop, some batting average. He's making good in zone contact, and he's hitting at the top of the lineup. Like he's hit right now. Jeremiah Jackson is regularly hitting in front of Gunnar Henderson. Like that's a place you kind of want to be, and I'll take that. You know, especially in a deeper league. Obviously, in 10s and 12s, you may be looking elsewhere for a little bit more upside than Jeremiah Jackson, but I think in 15s especially, you could do much worse than a guy like Jeremiah Jackson.
It's a tough schedule. Looking at their schedule, Baltimore does not have a full week of home games the rest of this year. So this week in particular, I would say is the toughest. At San Diego for 3, and then traveling back home for 3 against the Dodgers with a day off, then 3 against the Pirates, then going up north for 3 against Toronto, 3 against the White Sox, and then 4 set at home against the Yankees with a day off, 3 against the Rays to wrap up the regular season at home, and then 3 at the Yankees, which will just be maybe the Yankees may be trying to play for wild card positioning at that point. I don't know, but the schedule does not do Jeremiah Jackson any favors. I would say that. Unlike Luis Matos with that schedule, this is kind of the opposite.
Yeah, I think, and especially because I believe he will get both Paul Skeens and Bubba Chandler in that Pittsburgh series. So because he's got Ashcraft and Skeens starting. So like, yeah, maybe this is a guy to kind of put lower on your waterfall if you're looking for a guy, because the upcoming schedule might be a little bit brutal. So that's a really good point. I'm glad you pointed that out. Let's move over from a younger guy to an older guy and talk about Mike Yastrzemski, who is just kind of doing Mike Yastrzemski things. Since being traded to the Kansas City Royals at the trade deadline from my San Francisco Giants, Mike Yastrzemski is hitting 272, 358, 630, 7 home runs with 13 RBIs. He has been absolutely on fire. Yastrzemski does this, right? Like he'll have these just hot pockets during the season that he is just like a world beater, and then he'll kind of disappear. So did we miss all the goodness? Are you picking him up and kind of seeing if you can ride this out? Where are you at on Yastrzemski rest of the way?
It does feel like we missed all the goodness on this one. I mean, I don't know if anybody had him hitting 7 home runs the rest of the way after they made the acquisition for him. But there he is hitting leadoff every time they're facing a righty. He's out there hitting leadoff. I'm looking at the schedule this week. This week, he has 3. These are all home. So they're home all week against the Angels and Twins. That could be another good week of offense. But the rest of the week, then they go on a roadie, 4 games at Cleveland, which hit and miss. Cleveland doesn't do much offensively, but they also don't give up a lot of they don't give up a lot either. Then you got 3 at Philly. So that's a tough week. And then you're going to have the Philly game. The Philly games, forget it. There's the lefties in the rotation. You're going to have probably Sanchez and or Suarez. There's a good chance that Yastrzemski doesn't even get off the bench that week. Then you got Seattle and their pitching, Toronto and their pitching, and then they wrap up the season at the Angels and at the Athletics. If you want to add Yastrzemski to your roster, it's this week and it's the final week of the season, and you're going to have to carry him on the bench in the other 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that is kind of the difficult part, and I'm not a big believer in Yastrzemski as like a world beater. Yes, he's been super, super hot, and he's going to play every day in Kansas City, but like the underlying numbers are mostly mediocre for him, though he has been made, I think, the best in zone contact of his career. So like that's something. The problem is like he still doesn't crush the ball. It's not a great park. He moved from a bad park for power to another bad park for power in Kansas City. So I'm a little tepid. I think if you're looking for a power boost and there's not much out there, I guess I would go for it. But ultimately, I'm not super enthused by Mike Yastrzemski. All right, let's move over to the pitching side of things, and we'll start here with Kyle Bradish, who is back in the majors after missing time with injury. Where are you at on Bradish? Because he's a guy that I've normally really been into and been a huge fan of.
Can we? Here's the thing with Bradish. What impressed me, I mean, he came back in his first start, struck out 10 in 6 innings, and you look around all the badness just around the injury, and like even his last 2 years, 45 in the third inning, 63 strikeouts, 15 walks, and 4 home runs allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go back to 2023 when he really took off, you're basically looking at 210 innings, and we're looking at 230 strikeouts and only 18 home runs allowed. It's like, this guy's been great I would love. I'm glad he's on the list. I would love to have him, get him cheap now. If you're in a keeper league and you can get him now, to roll him over in the next year. But I'm betting somebody's already done that in your home league with this. But this, I mean, the body of work, if you look over the last 3 years and around a major injury with it, but he picked up right where he left off. I mean, it was Boston. He did that game against it too. It wasn't like he was rolling out there against the Pirates or the Rockies in the road. I mean, this was a good lineup that he carved up.
Yeah, and he's going to have it's actually not a 2 start because they've got 6 men in the rotation this week.
Yeah,
but he's going
to one way. It's one start the rest of the way.
Yeah, so you got start versus San Diego and a start versus Pittsburgh. 2 offenses you're not really that afraid of. I think if I'm looking for a starting pitcher, Bradish is pretty close to the top of my list. We may talk about one other guy here that you might want to put above him, but Bradish has been a really, really good pitcher when healthy. This was a fantastic first start off the IL. I was a little concerned, like, hey, do you want to start him in his first start in the majors coming off of injury, against a Boston team that can really get you? But he went out there and shoved. There may be some uneven matchups, as he kind of shakes off the rust. But for the most part, are you going to find better upside than Kyle Bradish? Available probably in the vast majority of leagues. I know he's only rostered in like 1% of NFBC leagues right now. So if he's only available if he's available in 99% of leagues in NFBC, he's probably available in close to 100% of your Yahoo, ESPN home leagues, things like that. We're going to kind of move on away from a guy who is an established guy over to a few guys that are less established, and we're gonna start off with Payton Tolle, and I don't know, is it pronounced Tolle or Tolle?
I would say Tolle, but I can't definitively say that, so I will check while you're talking about him.
Okay. He has been absolutely unreal in the minor leagues this year. Between high A, double A, triple A, 91 2/3 innings, a 3.04 ERA, and a 36.5% strikeout rate. Walk rate's been about 6% in the minors. Came up for his first major league start, and hey, he absolutely shoved. Now, I think there's a little bit of question of like what his role is going to be down the stretch, but are you picking up Tolle?
So I think I make this plug every week. We talk about pitching, but Lance Brazowski, his latest newsletter.
Yeah,
I can't find Tolle. I can't find the pronunciation guide. So let's say Tolle. But the Brazowski has Tolle as his top pitching prospect above the guy we're going to talk about next, who probably has more noise. What I love about Payton Tolle, looks like the cornbread cowboy for those of you guys on social media about college football. That's what this guy looks like. And great. Like he's 22, but he looks like he's 42. It's just an amazing look for a guy at his age. So, but the other note that really stood out to me about this was Alex Cora has already said they're not sure he's going to pitch Wednesday.
Yeah.
I see a note from the Globe. Red Sox manager Alex Cora says Saturday that the team isn't sure if Tolle will start Wednesday versus Cleveland. It's like, no, what are you doing? Why? So stuff amazing. But if they're already thinking, I was just looking at like if this was a workload management thing, but he worked 85 innings last year in college. No, I'm sorry, 81 of the third. So he worked 81 of the third at TCU. He's at 91. Basically, he's at 98 right now. So I don't see this as a workload management thing. I'm just kind of concerned. Like damn, if you're not going to use it, because Cleveland will be the ideal matchup. I'm all, and it's just like seeing that news. I've already adjusted my bid for tonight.
Yeah. I mean, he's a big lefty. He, really, really great movement, especially on his breaking ball. Like, there's a lot of strikeout potential here for Tolle. We got to figure out someone in the comments.
Somebody correct us, please.
Yeah, someone correct us. This is like a really, really interesting arm. I think the biggest question is the role here. Like, are they going to let him start, or are they going to kind of move him into the pen? We need to remember that, this is a really, really young guy. He was drafted in 2024 draft. And so it's already put on, 97 innings so far this year. They may want to be careful with him. But the Red Sox are, still in this playoff race, and they may want to kind of save him for the bullpen in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's a lot of upside here in this arm. I just don't know what the role is going to be. So if you're kind of win seeking right now, it may be really difficult to get wins from him, because I don't know how deep they're going to let him go in games, or if they're even going to start him kind of down the stretch.
Yeah, it's like I'm wondering if they're going to just keep him fresh enough for October.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would do too, right? Like, from a real baseball, from a fantasy perspective, I want them starting him every 5th day, letting him go 5. But from a real life baseball perspective, yeah, like that's what they should do. So
keep him fresh enough for October, because it's a weapon. I think back to how David Price came up in 2008. Absolutely shoving lefty, and then we kept him fresh enough, and then used him out of the bullpen.
Same way the Giants used Madison Bumgarner when he came up,
right,
at the end of the season, right? You kind of, but this will be a really interesting arm that you want to watch, especially for next season, because I think there's a really good chance he is one of the guys in the opening day rotation moving forward. All right, let's transition to the guy you were referencing, who's had a little bit more fanfare, and for good reason. Jonah Tong has been absolutely fantastic in the minor leagues this year, and is a top tier prospect for the Mets. Are you going to the wire to pick up Jonah Tong?
If he's good, if there's not going to be question about how he's going to be used, I mean, his numbers are video game-ish. It's ridiculous. I mean, just to put this in perspective, in case folks aren't familiar, he's thrown 118 and 2/3 innings this year between the minors and his first start in the major league. He struck out 185 guys and has allowed all of 2 home runs.
Yep.
That is patently absurd. I don't, and yet you watch a delivery, you can see Tim Lincecum type of shape, but it
scares the hell out of it. It
right?
absolutely scares. Like, if you got TikTok or YouTube or whatever, like, go and look up. Some people have done side by side comparisons from Lincecum to Tong.
Pitching Ninja has a good one about it.
Yeah, and it is just identical, like the same motion. Which, like, hey, Lincecum was the best pitcher in baseball for about 4 or 5 years, right? Yeah. But then the body just fell apart. And so, like, I drafted him in my 3-sport draft, that we were doing here over the course of the last month, kind of late. I was like, hey, here's a dart throw, because I think the upside is huge. I don't know how long the career is going to be considering those mechanics, but man, like, the upside is massive.
I mean, just the swing and miss. I mean, even in the major league start, 6 strikeouts in 5 innings. Just a reminder of what the gap is between AAA and the majors. We're yet reminded, even AA in the major, because Tong's only had 16 and 2/3 innings above AA ball, but in those he has 16 and 2/3 and he has 23 strikeouts, and both of his home runs came while he was pitching in AA. So, because we don't have a note saying that we're not sure if he's going to make his next start like we do from with Tolle and the Red Sox, I'd be more aggressive with Jonah Tong right now.
Yeah, I think I would be aggressive too, especially as the Mets are kind of battling for one of these last playoff spots. I think they're going to give him an opportunity here to kind of just go and kind of see what he has. Like I said, the upside is huge. You were mentioning those numbers in the minor leagues. Comes out to a 40.5% strikeout rate. so far or this year in the minor leagues.
2 home runs. That's just, and that's how tough it is for folks to elevate and everything. That's great. And workload wise, he's right. If he threw 113 innings in 2024, he's at 118 too. So it's like maybe they only let him go 5, but he could make 4 more starts and still be in good
I think he will
for October.
Yeah, I think he absolutely will. So would you rather have Tong or Tolle?
Tong.
Yeah, I think I'm going Tong too, just because I think the role is going to be a little bit more concrete. What about for next season?
Oh, wow.
So let's say you're in a keeper league where you can pick up a guy and get them for nothing, right? The last pick of your draft, and there are leagues like this when you pick up guys off of waivers in a keeper league, you're allowed to keep them in the 24th round or whatever your last pick is, right?
Well, I mentioned that Lance had Tolle as his top guy over Tong, and I love reading his work, so I'm going to go with Lance on this one. Not convincingly, not like, oh my God, like 8 out of 8 times. But
I love Lance too, and I buy into pretty much everything he says. I'm still going to go Tong here, just a little bit, but if you could get both, if you're in one of those formats and you're not competitive right now, go grab both, right? You know, make them your 23rd and 24th round picks next year, and then kind of see what happens with the rest. Or at least, you know, have the ability to trade them in the off season if you want to trade them to a team that might be rebuilding for a current star. All right, speaking about a current star, we got Payble Lopez on the docket. I kind of thought his season was going to be over. He's expected to make his final rehab start today, and then likely pitch at some point here in the next week for the Twins. Currently, Fangraphs has him on the docket for Saturday's start at Kansas City. Where are you at on Lopez? You know, guys coming off of injury, especially to non-competitive teams, aren't often pushed hard because, hey, there's nothing to push them hard for. So are you expecting Lopez to kind of go back to being the guy he was, or kind of being handled kid gloves?
Maybe something in between. I was looking, so I had him in a league in just a cursed. I had traded Zebby Matthews and David Festa for Payble Lopez a week before Lopez went down. All right. So and I cut Payble Lopez because this is a league where tonight is the last. After this, there are no September moves. And so the fact that Lopez isn't ready, like you can't FAAB a guy in the IL. So it slides because otherwise somebody could have picked him up on the cheap and had him as an A contract next year because he's been out so long. So, you know, with Lopez in another league I'm in, I was hoping to get him. Somebody already had him. Somebody either kept him or I missed a couple of weeks ago, but Lopez would be somebody that'd be interested because the Twins want to see what's left, how he is recovering from this injury. It's the second year of a 4-year contract. And so, you know, let him work. I think, you know, when you look at the names that we've covered so far, I wouldn't say he'd be at the top of the list of people that I want right now, but he'd be near the top of it because he should be able to go out there and be effective. Now, if you made the point earlier, chasing wins, it's Minnesota. A lot of those aren't coming up at this point. So ratio wise, yeah, if I was trying to move the needle in my ratios, this would be interesting for me.
Yeah, I think that if you need help in the ratios, I think Lopez is guy, and maybe get some pretty decent strikeout numbers. The problem is I don't know if they're going to let him go 5 because it's the Twins. Generally speaking, right? The Twins are a team that they don't let a lot of guys go 5, very often. And then you add in the fact that he's coming off an injury. They're not playing for anything. There's no reason to push him. So if you're win seeking right now, you're going to be looking to a different direction, But if you're looking for some cheap strikeouts, some good ratio help, I think Lopez makes a lot of sense. I do think he's probably the most expensive guy that we talk about today in terms of FAAB, though.
Name recognition is definitely going to do that.
Yeah. Let's go back to that closing situation in Milwaukee with Trevor McGill hitting the IL. We have Abner Uribe. Is he the next guy up?
I think so. We saw was it yesterday? Aaron Ashby with the win, Uribe with the save in yesterday's game. So yes, I would lean on Uribe as your next option.
Yeah, I think so too. Uribe is an electric arm, can sometimes struggle with his control, but they're kind of running out of options, and he is a guy who's proven he can do it to some extent. In Milwaukee, I think he's going to be the guy rest the way. So, but would you rather have Ryan Walker or Abner Uribe rest the way?
I would rather have Uribe the rest of the way because it is just a team context situation. Yeah. It's a better situation.
Yeah, it's a better team. Obviously, they're kind of moving towards the playoffs. They've already thrown him on back-to-back days, so he may get the day off today. But I think moving forward, Uribe is going to be the guy who gets the majority of the saves there in Milwaukee, and there could be quite a few of them as they have been. Pretty much, I think. Do they have the best record in baseball right now? I believe they do.
I think they still do, yes.
Yeah, and it's actually not even close. 85 wins. The next highest is 79 by the Phillies and the Tigers. So, I think you want the closer on the best team in baseball down the stretch. So, if you were looking for saves, this is the guy to throw all your money at. You wanted to talk real quick about Messick, just kind of as a note on to what Paul and I talked about on Friday. So what did you want to talk about in terms of Parker Messick, who Paul and I both raved about?
Yeah, I was just going to add on process-wise, Parker Messick is somebody that I picked up last week because two things jumped out to me. One, left-handed. Two, he was facing the Rays on the road. And as a Rays fan, I know that they suck against lefties because the lineup just is not, with Aranda still on the shelf, Lau and or Lowe usually sit against lefties. It's just a different lineup. And they have Christopher Morel and his swing and miss, and Everson Pereira and his swing and miss. Like, they've run a high risk of strikeouts, and all of that played out. So I would just say I'm running Messick again this week because the only difference is the matchup is in Tampa Bay this particular time. However, the Rays still suck against lefties, and it's one of these things where if you're looking for options, it's like, I know the Cleveland context isn't great, but that was my thought process last week, and the matchup going to Steinbrenner doesn't run me away from this one. I'm still using him again with this because there are certain conditions you look at, you're like, yep, I'm running that one, and this would be one of those.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I think he's going to be playing a pretty big role down the stretch here in Cleveland. Definitely a guy I'm interested in for next year too. Like, I think a lot of these guys who aren't the big names like Jonah Tong, in terms of like their prospect pedigree, that have these kind of, big, last month of the season kind of get overlooked because so many people have moved away to football from baseball. And so, like, I feel like Messick's one of these guys that might go really, really cheaply in drafts, especially your early drafts for 2026. Are you buying that? Are you going to be kind of loading him up on any of your teams?
I have him in two. Okay. And if I can get him in another one or two, cool. But I do have him I used him in the one aforementioned league where things are super tight. And I picked him up last week for that specific reason. That worked out well. So it's again, just process looking at things. And if you can get him cheap now, and Cleveland's track record with what they're able to do with pitchers is always something I want to consider when looking at the Guardians.
And I do think the strikeout rate's going to come up, right? He's been really, really attacking the zone in his first two starts. I think he'll start getting guys to kind of come out of the zone now that teams are probably going to be looking to attacking there since he's been in there so much. So I'm excited to watch Parker Messick kind of rest of the way and then see where I have him kind of projected out for 2026. All right, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Jason, remind everybody where you can reach, what you're working on, and all that jazz.
Yeah, find me on Blue Sky at Jason Collette, RotoWire Collette Calls column every week. This last week, I wrote about the whole situation, how to manage Zach Wheeler, because we're kind of in an unknown. I did not catch the earlier podcast if you and Paul, how you all discussed the Wheeler situation, but I would say it's like, if there's any good news out of this one, in fact, that it was the Venus.
Yeah.
The Venus thoracic outlet like Merrill Kelly had versus the nerve one that a lot of the other guys have had that they have not come back from well. And I looked at it. It's like, but how are you going to deal with this? Is it, Merrill Kelly's a sample size of one. Like, he's the only named pitcher that we've seen have this. And he made 27 starts the year after. Now, it wasn't the Merrill Kelly that we've seen the last couple of years, but it was still good, not great, but it was, effective. And so that's where, but Wheeler's older. And are you going to base it off as how crazy, like how much are you willing to go in on a sample size of one guy, the most recent guy coming back from this successfully? So that's kind of where I wrote it out. And I mean, my track record on this, let somebody else. And I think on the heels of a season where people were going all in on Alcantara and Strider after watching 4 innings in spring training, y'all go ahead and see what Wheeler is in spring training. But I wrote up the case, even put up a history lesson about J.R. Richard, who, this would have been thoracic outlet syndrome for him as well. And he never threw another major league pitch, but his was, he ended up having a stroke because the medical team, it's a sad, I mean, if you're not familiar with the J.R. Richards story, go back and look at it. It's a pretty sad story and how his career and life went around this, because they thought he was being lazy and malcontent because Nolan Ryan got a big contract and J.R. Richard didn't. Imagine the future, how baseball would have been different if Nolan Ryan and J.R. Richard could have both continued to pitch for the Astros. Just amazing, just unreal. But it's a sad history lesson in medical stuff. But it's good that Wheeler they caught it in time, and that he's on the road to recovery. What that road looks like could be anybody's guess. I think I feel he will pitch in 2025-6 rather. Just how effective, I don't know, and when that starts, I don't know. But I'm sure people will be talking about it all winter about when they're going to draft him.
Yeah, and I think those are the two big questions, right? One, how effective can he be coming off this surgery? We honestly don't know. Anybody who says we know is going to be lying. And then when does he even come? It's a 6 to 8 month recovery, which would push him to somewhere between April and June. Yeah. So we're talking about, we don't know what the effectiveness is going to be. He could miss the first 2 months of the season. And we don't honestly know what the Phillies are going to look like. They've got a number of free agents. Is this a team that is, pushing all in for this year with the idea that, hey, maybe the rebuild starts next year, especially now that they've lost Zach Wheeler for some time? I don't even know where the Phillies are going to be at. So I'm interested to see, obviously I love Zach Wheeler as a pitcher. This is a bummer to see, but I've already said I'm out for 2026. I don't see that changing unless we get some sort of amazing news between now and draft day.
Right.
So you can reach me on all social media platforms, Justin Mason FWFB. Read all my work on Fangraphs and Fantasy Pros, and hear me on this podcast and the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast. That will wrap us up for this episode. For Jason and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.
Happy Labor Day.